What's up, Wargamers? Welcome back to World of Wargaming. I'm Isaiah. Today I invite you again to grab a snack, a drink, a chair, and let me talk at you for a minute. And today the thing that I'd like to talk at you for a minute about is the new supplement for the Silver Bayonet. The Carpathians Castle Fear. Now there are several other supplements slated for release for this game, but this one, the first one, is probably the one that I'm most excited for because the Carpathians is the part of the world, in my mind at least, that screams and begs and claws to be represented in this gothic horror game, because that's kind of the root of it. That's Bram Stoker's Dracula, Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, all that stuff is we're coming out of that part of, over Eastern Europe. And so I'm extremely happy that that's the first thing represented. And later there's Canada, Egypt, and one more that's coming. But anyways, today we're here to talk about the Carpathians. Now, much like the core rule book, the book is beautiful. It is paperback, and to my knowledge only comes in paperback. The art maintains the same type of black and white with here a splash of red there. Aesthetic, some of the art is recycled. Some of the images are recycled from the main rule book as opposed to being new imagery, but that's okay. I understand that's a way to keep costs down for the book, and I'm okay with it. But it is a thing. But the book is every bit as beautiful as the original, or as the core book, minus the fact that it is paperback as opposed to being hardback. And once you crack into it and get going, the first thing you're going to come to the first thing you're going to come to is your introduction, which gives you a little bit of backstory about the book and the part of the world and the overall story arc that is being represented. As much like other games that Mr. McCullough has written, the games tend to lay out a kind of semi-pre-described story arc. Maybe not so much in the regular PvP scenarios within the core book, although they can absolutely be linked into an ongoing story. They don't necessarily tell an ongoing story arc, whereas the scenarios in this book, for both the head-to-head as well as the solo and co-op, tell a very specific story arc about Castle Fear, the Iron Hold, this place in the deep within the Carpathian Mountains. And as is good with any DLC, we get some new dudes, we get some new characters, we get 3 new stats, or 3 new classes, soldiers. 2 of them can be taken by all nations. One of them, the Woodsman, can only be taken by Austria, France, Prussia, Russia, and Spain. The Coachman can be taken by everybody. He's speed 6, melee 1, accuracy 1, defense 13, which is pretty strong, pretty solid defense rating. Courage 0, health 12, recruitment 15. He has the hard to put down attribute, and he's equipped with a blunderbuss, shot bag, and hand weapon. We've got the Highwayman, who has combat rider, which I'm going to have to check out what that does, but he's melee 1, accuracy 1, defense 13, health 10, recruitment 18. He comes with 2 pistols. I have some GW Empire pistoliers that are just dying to be used as a Highwayman. And then we've got the Woodsman, who is melee 1, accuracy 1, defense 13, courage 0, health 10, recruitment 15. But he is nimble and Firestarter, both of which I think are new attributes. So we may jump ahead back to the attribute section to see about what these new things do. And then he's equipped with a rifle and a cartridge box. So in the very back of the book, there are some new attributes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 new attributes. One of them is the Firestarter trait, which is that they may either move, replace a move, or shoot action to swap one item of specialist equipment it is carrying with oil and torches. And after the game, they're returned to their normal equipment. So they can just always have the access to that fire if they're fighting something that they need it for. That's kind of neat. Now, it is represented, it's got an O, so it's something that an officer can take as well. So that's kind of neat. Other ones are Cause Confusion, Fear of Fire, Fey Touched, Immune to Missile Weapons, Infectious, Reform Overgrave, and Sow Fear. We may come back and look through those a little bit more closely. That doesn't sound right. Is that right? After that short section with those 3 new soldier types, we come to the Iron Keep campaign, which is the head-to-head version. Now, there are some differences here as far as the initiative rolls go. So in the regular game, you only encounter weird stuff for an initiative roll if somebody rolls double ones or double zeros. Which, honestly, in all the games of Silver Bayonet that I've played, I think I've only seen that chart get rolled on once, maybe twice. So in this one, anytime you roll doubles, something will happen. And there's a chart, so for like double ones, double twos, this thing will happen. So there is a greater chance of seeing those types of things happen, which is A, good for the story, good for the narrative, good for keeping the game fresh and exciting, and B, good for to keep the difficulty level of the game, keep you on your toes with your opponent. And then in that, we have 5 linked scenarios that walk you through the different parts of the Castle Fear as you attempt to deal with the undead warlord Lucia Mepia? Is that, how far off am I? Let me see. Marcella. It's Marcella. What is it? Marcella Lupul. So I wasn't too terribly far off. Marcella Lupul, who is absolutely 100% an aristocratic vampire. I have a great model to use for this. The Vlad Dracula and his wives models for Carnivale from TT Combat that are just going to be absolutely perfect. Perfect for this. I've also got the castle for Yafsiga from Blacksite Studios that's just going to fit so good into these scenarios. So as you explore through the Iron Keep, the scenarios start in the graveyard. From there, you move into the kennels. And from the kennels into the torture chamber. I've got some good terrain for that also. From the torture chamber, you advance into the Great Hall. And from the Great Hall, the campaign concludes in the lair of Marcella Lupul. Now, the solo and co-op section, which is the next section, is called the Broken Watchtower. So the Broken Watchtower is the 3-mission solo campaign that's included in the supplement. I wish it was a little bit longer, but that's just me. I wish that it was as long as the head-to-head scenarios, but that's just me wanting more of the goodness. And it doesn't quite take place in the castle. It happens at a watchtower, an abandoned watchtower, supposedly abandoned watchtower, that is within range of the tower. So it can be played as either a prequel or a sequel to that main campaign. So if you and your buddy play through that main campaign and you want just a little bit more, you could tackle this one on your own. And it includes the Witchwoods, the Spine, which is a mountain range, and the Broken Watchtower itself. And you have a pretty substantial minis list for a fairly small campaign. You need a Forest Witch, 4 Dark Wolves, a Doghead, which I think is a new monster that's, I'm going to use most likely a Gnoll model. It's basically like a human with a dog's head and features. 2 Forest Walkers, which are kind of trees. 5 Giant Bats, which I don't have. I'll get that sorted. I looked at some GWs, but $50 for 3 of them. No thank you. I will. No thank you. No thank you. Giant Rats, which I've got covered. Bat Swarms, which I've got. Ghouls, which I've got. And Vricolacus, which are kind of aberrant winged type vampires. Think like Vargeists from Flesh Eater Courts or from old vampire counts. And for those, I'm probably also going to pick up the winged cannibal box from TT Combat for Carnivale, because I plan on playing, like I have the starts of a Strigoi team for Carnivale, so why not buy those models and be able to double duty there. Now obviously I could find a cheaper thing and print it, but then I wouldn't have the model for Carnivale, and I would rather have their model. So that's probably going to be my plan there. And then let's back up here to the beginning of the Iron Keep campaign, where it does not, that I see, give you a monster list for that section. But that's okay. Not a big deal, but worth pointing out that it does give you a recommended monster list for main one, but not for the, or for the solo one, but not for the head-to-head one. And it also gives you page numbers, whether in this book, Where to Find the Monsters, or in the core book, Where to Find the Monsters, which is a beautiful quality of life edition. I love it when they give you page numbers like that. Just love it. After the conclusion of that solo campaign section, we come to the Bestiary, where we have some new monsters, which include those bat swarms that were mentioned earlier. The bloodless hounds, which are kind of like an undead hound, and there's some story there back to them. The doghead, which I'm going to say Kapquan, maybe. Romanian dogheads. The forest walkers, which are kind of like tree folk. I'm thinking probably some Sylvaneth-ish type models for that. A forest witch, or Muma Paduri. A gargoyle, got that. Giant bat, giant rat, rodent, some unusual size. Marcel Lupol, which I'll be using my Vlad Tepish model for 100%. The undead werewolf, the Prikolici. That's one that I'm going to have to, I'm not exactly sure. I mean, I've got a regular werewolf model and I can say that it's undead, but I'm going to try to find, like, see if I can find an actual undead werewolf, because that'd be cool. We got Rackborn, which are special zombies, and some Tomb Wraiths. Got those covered because I've got a whole bunch of Nighthawk models laying around. And then the Vrikolakis, which is the kind of winged, beefed up, I think, Vargeist from Age of Sigmar or Warhammer Fantasy Battles. And then we come back to the new attributes. So let's take a look at these and see what they are and what they could potentially contribute to gameplay. So there are some pretty gnarly things going on here. Cause Confusion, which is the first entry, is pretty basic. It's not too terrifying, but it does seem very, very fun. It says that if at the end of a round of combat, if a model would move away from that model, then instead of moving an inch straight back, they move 2 inches away in a random direction, which is just kind of fun. We got Fear of Fire, which says that a model will not move to attack a model that is within 2 inches of a fire, or that can do fire damage. They'll strike back if that model hits them, but they will not move to engage with that fire, which is neat and flavorful, and I like it. I can see that being very cool, and I can see that fire starter stat that we talked about earlier from the Woodsman being very useful in many types of situations. We've got Fey Touch, which means you've had some type of dealings with the Fey realm, and all of your attacks count as enchanted. However, their recruitment cost does increase by +4. Firestarter, we've already talked about. Immune to missile weapons. Immune to missile weapons. You just can't shoot them unless it's something that they have an allergy to. But if they don't have an allergy, they're just immune to missile weapons. You got to ignore them, or you got to go fight them in hand-to-hand. And hand-to-hand is not where I want to be, personally. Infectious. If they're reduced to 0 health, you must make a must make a survival roll after the game. Then a roll of 4 to 6 on the survival roll is treated as a slow recovery result as they get over the infectious gangrenous wound. We have Reform over Gray, which is whenever the model figure suffers any damage, it immediately teleports to its point of origin, which would be specified by the scenario, which is very cool. Kind of like you hit the vampire and then it shatters into bats or mist or whatever and then floats back to a different place, which is very, very cool and flavorful, and I'm excited to see it on the tabletop. And then we've got Sow Fear, which is at the end of the turn, any models that are within 6 inches of it must take a terror check with penalty equal to X. And then we have some stuff about the author and illustrators, Joseph A. McCullough, of great renown, and the illustrator Brainbug Design, which does, I guess, all the art for the book, which is, again, that phenomenal black and gray, very creepy gothic art that is an absolute pleasure to behold in a rule book. And that brings us to the end of the supplement. It's a very short supplement. There's not a lot of extra meat in here. It's very straight to the point. Here are the things. Go, use them, have fun. And I can respect that take on putting the supplement together. The book costs, I think, $25. I had pre-ordered mine and actually got like a discount refund back, so mine was like $23, $22 and some change. And I think well worth it, especially if you've got an opponent. Now, if you were buying it strictly for the solo play with only 3 scenarios in the campaign, maybe not. think about it, you know, for yourself. You haven't made a decision. But if you've got other people that play the game and you can actually get yourself an opponent to play through the full 5-game scenario, then I think that's many, many hours of entertainment between playing the games, prepping for the games, and all that stuff to make it 100%. Or if you just love the Silver Bayonet, you just want the book on your shelf, maybe you just buy the book and read through it and might not ever play it. And that's fine too, because however you enjoy the hobby is however you choose to enjoy the hobby, and however you choose to do it is fine as long as you're enjoying the hobby. Now, myself, as a lover of having books on the shelf and trying to get them to the table, and of all the aspects of it, and especially as a fan of Mr. McCullough's games and of the Silver Bayonet specifically, it was a no-brainer for me. I was obviously going to buy it the whole time, and I'm going to buy all the other ones that come out too. Now, the next one that comes out is Canada, and that one is actually being put together by Ash Barker from Guerrilla Miniature Games, which I think is really cool. I'm excited to see what kind of monsters. I hope that he's going to pull from some of the folklore and native legend of stuff of Canada to create the mythos around it, because it'll be the first supplement that takes us really outside of Europe during this time of conflict. And so I'm really, really, really excited for that book as well. But as with all good things, or if you didn't enjoy it, I guess kind of good, or hopefully not bad things. Hopefully not that, but all things must come to an end. So that's going to do it for today. I appreciate you stopping by, letting me talk at you about the Silver Bayonet, the Carpathians, Castle Fear, the Iron Keep. I hope you have an absolutely amazing rest of your day. And as always, I'd like to say a big, huge, from the bottom of my heart, thank you to our patrons who support us and pledge to us over on Patreon. You guys are the absolute best. If you enjoyed the content you saw here today, and that's something that you would like to consider doing to help out the channel, go over there, check out the link in the description, check out the Patreon. There's a lot of cool stuff over there, including access to our Discord server, talk to me, hang out with me, talk about our work, what we got going on in the hobby, some shout outs, all kinds of cool stuff. Check it out if that's something that you think you would be into. And regardless of whether or not you do that, I want you to know that I am incredibly grateful that you decided to stop by and spend part of your day with me today, rolling dice and pushing toy soldiers around. I hope you have an amazing rest of your day. And as always, may the dice be ever in your favor.